counseling for microcredentials. Welcome, Prof. Armin.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I have to warn you, because you know this is a workshop. This is not a talk show, it's a workshop. And now comes the work. There will be some work. Yeah, so it's not lecturing only. So now you need your devices, laptops and such. That would be good. Not right now, but sometime in the talk, because I'm a professor, I have a disease. I always talk, blah, blah, blah. But see, I put it nicely. Short words can then expand. That's me. I'm sorry for that. But there will be a moment in time when it's going to work. The workshop will be work. Yeah? But don't worry, it's going to be all easy peasy for you because you're really good. So yeah, I'm talking about co-design. I will also talk about study counseling, but embedded in this little workshop time now. Co-design. Yeah, well, first of all, design principles for microlearning. I already talked about what microlearning is and how it is particular in the big. And in a nutshell, we have to shift our focus away from this traditional way of thinking. Okay, what is the content? How do I structure it over a long time span and so on? But really shift towards questions, activating the students, designing for micro moments of learning, specific units of learning that are small and packaged, where people really experience something that is motivating. And of course, the agile in MICROCASA then also extends to the instructional design. Yeah? Namely that it's not just designing with all the tools that are available to us and the tools that we know best, but really the tools that work best and the tools that are most, let's say, sought after by the students themselves. Yeah? So I don't know if you know, but if you know someone who is a home improvement person and who has a lathe, which is a tool where you can cut wood, you put the wood in and then you cut round pieces, right? Because it's rotating and then you cut it. So this person, every table is round because he uses the tool so much, because he bought it and then it's expensive. So he's used one tool and uses it all the time. If it's ugly or beautiful, you know, no one asking anymore. And that's a bit of a danger, that our tools are guiding a lot what we're doing, rather than thinking, okay, what is the tool that we really need, or why do we use the tool? So we have to be a little bit careful in thinking about why do we use which tool, and that will help us to walk through the jungle also of AI tools that are just amazing. And that's the one thing. And the other thing is this data-driven idea of tool use. Seeing, okay, what really works with the students, what do they really like, what is most effective, and then let's use more of that. Okay, so that's a little bit the idea. But I'm talking about co-design. Why co-design? Why making things so complicated? So co-design, first of all, is the idea of involving all the stakeholders in the process of design. Has been done also with furniture and whatnot. But now with instructional design, it's very interesting to think, okay, let's include the teachers, educational professionals, technological people to come together and design something, yeah? To really sit on a round table and design something together. Why? Well, first of all, it's necessary. If you want to design technology-enhanced learning environments, it's better to have a computer specialist on board. And it's, of course, better to have an educational technologist and instructional designer on board. And it's also interesting to have experts in the domain and to have experts in actually teaching and of course, maybe also the recipients, the students, and ask them as well, what do you like, and so on. And this is very important because it increases acceptance and engagement into the courses. A large problem in technology-enhanced learning was that these fancy-schmancy technological environments were landing like a UFO in institutions, in pedagogical institutions, and it was like, oh, wow, this is new, this is fantastic and great. But after some time, it got boring. And the teachers started using it not as it was intended to be. And then they withered away. So it was not really sustainable. And co-design is one answer to that problem. The idea is that if you're designing it really together in a community, then the community is more likely to continue in using it. That's the idea, because it's a waste of money and time to design something really great, but then nobody uses it as it's intended to be. And co-design is trying to counter that. Yeah? So co-design is really worth it. It's also necessary. It's combining these different capacities, bringing them together on one table. But of course, there's a bit of a misunderstanding with co-design that it's very basic, democratic, that now we're putting everyone's opinion together and then the perfect design comes out. It's not really like it is. It's actually a highly facilitated process, a highly structured process as well. And the way we structured that process in the past, in the precursor project competency, was with a visual language. Why? Well, the reason was we had, before competence, we had lots of times projects in which computer scientists and educational people were working together. Now that's kind of the default co-design group in the work that I'm doing. And now what happened was that the educational people like me were always telling these rich stories about, yeah, then the learners are reflecting here, and then this magic happens, and then this and so on. And then we'd have a discussion, and then they're going to learn some more here and have this task and so on. And the computer scientist says, I just need to know where the button goes. Tell me right or left. Tell me which color is that. So very concrete, very specific. So this this graphic language that we develop is both very rich on one hand, but on the other hand, it's also very disambiguated. It's very concrete and very specific. You need to put it here or there. There's no in between. There's no fuzzy thing here in between. And it's very simple. Really, that's the beauty of it. And that was the main goal, that it can be understood in 5 minutes. And there are different social levels. There are activities. So the teacher does an action, the students does an action, and so on. And then there are learning objects, and then there's feedback giving and tools, and you just place them along. And then there is something special that is an emerging learning object. I'm going to tell you in a minute. So how this looks like is, for instance, the teacher action provides what a learning object can be: a video, can be a book, can be whatever learning material. Then the teacher provides a test, and so on and so forth. And the student looks at the learning material, the learning object. The student takes the test, all laid out with arrows and so on and so forth. The emerging learning object is special because it's the thing that the students produce themselves, learner artifacts. That was a bit special and a bit, fancy in that sense. Yeah, it's the things that emerge during the learning process itself. So we did this, and we used this to design MOOCs. And this is a classic MOOC, kind of an XMOOC design, where the videos are provided, the quizzes are provided, and then feedback is given, and so on and so forth. Very straightforward. And we did this with our colleagues in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, and we went around. We mostly did it pen and paper, but we also did it with Peter right there. We did it digitally, very advanced. So, but it was very straightforward. So the simplicity was the #1 criterion, right? And we then transferred it to make it look nicer, and we can see and prove that this language could describe MOOCs of different types, from CMOOC, which was a MOOC that was building heavily on emerging learning objects, to XMOOCs. Very straightforward, quizzes, learning material, and so on. So it shows it can describe all kinds of MOOCs. And of course, what I want to do now is going from this Codegraph language to a microcourse Codegraph language, Codegraph 2. That is what we're trying to develop now and what we're trying to test out with you. So let's see. So Codegraph for microcourses is a little bit different. The focus is shifting, as I said, shifting from the social layers and this community learning more to personalized, individualized moments of learning, and centering on assessment and feedback. Activating the students, small bits and pieces, tests are central, in addition to any other flashcard and demonstration videos of sorts, to be used to branch and personalize the learning experience. And different from the MOOCs where the teacher is carrying still quite some heavy load, it should be highly automatized. The system is basically arranging for most of the, let's say, activities on the instructional side. So this is how it looks like. Again, super simple, de-emphasizing the social levels. On the one axis, there is the microcourse system that arranges the learning environment or the learning experience. And on the other side, on the other axis, is the learner. The arrows, yeah, one, the activities from the learner, one, the activity from learning system. Can be any activity. You can just write above it, what is the activity? Yeah? But it's typically like from the learner side, reading or looking at or things like that, yeah? Or writing something or making a test or whatever. And from the learning system side, it's more things like providing or yeah, pointing to and so on and so forth. Yeah? So there's still these typical teaching and learning activities, and there is assessment, and then typically aligned with the assessment and also the feedback. So this is what you will be working with. Yeah, this is the canvas. You just take the learning objects, you put them on the canvas, you say who is providing them, who is doing what with them, and then you kind of build a sequence of activities throughout time. Yeah? So this is how it could be looking like, just an example. I'm hoping this is not the only micro course design that could be created with it, but I would be asking you to get your engines running and think about your own micro course experiences. If you've worked, I don't know, with Duolingo or Bubble or any kind of app like that to learn a language or yeah, to learn something, and maybe you, or your own course, if you're giving a course or if you've experienced any kind of course, trying to translate it into a micro learning experience, how would that look like? What would happen first and then second, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So here it's very simple. Everything starts with a test, because tests are important. Tests tell the learners, can I go on or can I jump over something? So here, if the pre-test is successfully accomplished, then you may not even need to look at the first learning material because you already know it. That's what the test shows. So you can jump over things. That's the beauty of micro-credentials. You're being certified for what you know, not for what you are learning, but for what you know, and for what you have learned. So then if you don't make the test, okay, look at the material. That's where you find the information. You make another test, and with this other test, you get to the next level. And the same story goes on. So this is a very simple structure. And then in the end, it's a final test, and you get your certificate. Very simple structure for microcourse, but I'm hoping it's not the only structure. I would like to know whether you can be creative and move things around. So that's where you need your laptop and such. Use this, and this is the task. So now you have to work, you have to be active. Please get your laptops out, and you can either do the QR code, but maybe with your laptop it's difficult. The tiny URL is also working. Yeah, so if you type tinyurl.com and then the magic STZMU9RK into your laptop, you can also now come to the template to use this MC Codigraph language. Then you have to download that template. Don't work on the template itself, but download it locally, because if you work on it itself, then everyone sees it. and no one else can work on it. So don't work on it, don't change it, just immediately download it. That would be important, otherwise it's shared and we're only creating one. If you don't have a laptop, maybe find someone who has, because it probably, and you work together on it, that's no problem at all, because it might be a bit difficult on a mobile phone. You can try, why not? If you have more delicate fingers than I have, then you can maybe also work it on a mobile phone. But laptop would be better. And it's no problem to work on it together. If you have 2, 3, 4 people, no problem. I'm not counting. So then in this tablet, there are multiple slides and there are also multiple links. These other links that you see here are also there. So you don't need to type them in. You can just start from there. Yeah. But again, first of all, download the template. Don't work on it itself, because then everyone would see. Okay. So, okay, I see you working on this. That's great. If you manage to download, now really work on a template yourself or in a small group, and just some design tips, let's say. Make good use of assessments. Yeah? Make questions an important part of the experience. I mean, you're free to do this as you wish, but I would suggest to also include questions, this assessment block. Don't forget about it. Maybe you can think about a learning environment that is mainly based on questions, that is only having questions. Those exist as well. But you can, you can also be free and think about your own learning environments and trying to model it with that language, and then see whether it can be done micro. Consider different formats, flashcards, tips sent to the learner through push notification, any of those things that I leave. and then we can go to the next steps. Yeah, it's a tall order, I understand, but you're not getting an award for it afterwards, yeah? Or maybe you do. It depends. But it's psychologically safe. It's all anonymous and it's all good. It is a bit difficult, yeah. But maybe be inspired about your own learning environments, the own teaching that you're doing. If you would translate it, how would it look like? Just the practice of using graphical languages in the first place. Yeah? And 5 more minutes. Bye. But I'm changing the slide now because you should not copy that one. What is that?
This one mute. This one on.
Okay. Okay. Time. 1 more minute. Good things come fast. Good ideas. Okay, let's shift into the next task. Okay, so the next task is, you can see it here, is to save and upload the design. And that is now the next link that is also in this slide. So you don't need to type this. You can, if you like, you can type it, but it's also within the template that you have downloaded. So you can just click that link, and then you find a Google Drive space in which you can upload now your designs, so that we can have a look at it anonymously to see what you have created. Okay? And you know what? I'm just going to show you the first one, just for an impression. So here's the first one. So far. And so this is a sequence of activities. I'm trying to interpret it now, see if the language works. So the system provides a video, learning object, that's a video. Then the students watches it, but then it's being tested on the video. Then there's another video, guided then to the next video, testing, video, testing,
Armin,
and
Armin, we lost you. You are not sharing your screen. Goes online.
aha.
Sharing screen or sharing Windows?
I'm sharing, I was sharing the screen.
You need to share screen.
I shared the screen.
You are not seeing it.
Sharing it again.
Okay. All right. Now they can see. Okay, good.
So there is a line of a sequence of videos and tests, right? Very classic, yeah? One thing after the other, very classic, and an intermediate test. I'm trying to see that. What is that? What does it say at the end of the line? A formative, a summative. Yeah, that's a summative test. So have you understood all of the first sequence, and then it goes up to the next sequence, and so on and so forth. So it's let's say very straightforward, but it works. It has shown that it works. So that's one way to do this, right? Yeah, let's. we are just among us, you know. It's we can work on this, of course. It doesn't have to be perfect for our purposes now, just to see what is the core idea. Yeah, no worries there. Let me see whether other ideas have been shared. Where do I have to go? Here. Where's my cursor? There's another one. Let's see. Here it is. I actually have to move a little bit because I cannot really see it otherwise. This is Rockstar. Okay, so here we have the story and theory of photography, and then a quiz is being taken, and then the next level, the use of the camera, and then a practical activity as a test. Very good. So it's not just Q&A, but also practical activity can be the assessment in here, and then post-production, and then the assessment is projects. Very nice. Okay, good. There's one more. We're looking at one more. Okay, also similar fashion, these levels, you're really inspired by the example, which, okay, no problem. But we need to learn more, whether there are more ideas, more branching, back and forth, multiple branching, iterations, rotations, that would be interesting to learn. Okay, so we have these different levels, again, pretest and then test at the end, and then this leveling up across it. This is exactly what we will be looking at now in our example course. So I'm moving on with the presentation. Yeah, it shows again. Yeah, so wait a second. There's one more step that you have to do because we're so interested, and this is not only me telling you something, but we want to learn from you. And that's why I would kindly ask you to fill out the survey, how you felt about this experience right now. And that's another link, the usability survey. How did you feel now about using the language with this very, very bad introduction, of course, now that I gave just like so, but maybe you could already use it like some of these examples showed. So that's why I would like to know, please fill out this survey. That's the tiny URL MPD7N5 TV, and you also have it in your template. Just very quickly, maximum 5 minutes, and then
The month with the zero or
can be without the zero, I believe. I don't know. It just has to be unique, actually. So, yeah, it can. Yeah, with the zero then. With the zero. Yeah. Okay. Are you born on the same day? Do you have the same mother? No. Have you found the survey? Anyone needs help to find the survey? Are you on the survey?
Yeah.
Okay, great. To see all these wonderful designs. Very good. I can see some already have finished the survey. Okay. So this was certainly not as easy as I promised it to be. It's actually the difficult task. Now comes the simpler task. It's like, yeah, taking the second step before the first one, but for a reason to get more creative ideas. Because the second task now is to actually experience what could be a microcourse. And we're gonna experience a microcourse that actually has exactly that structure. Yeah? So very straightforward. Yeah? And that microcourse will be on study coordination. But before, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about how we went about it, because that might be also helpful. Not yet using AI tools, I have to admit, but at the end, you will also need to transfer whatever you've created with AI tools to then some management, some learner management system and so on. And that does mean that other design tools are not necessary anymore. So this is more now the manual labor that still the instructional designer has to do. And because there are so many systems, we had to make a choice. And we thought, okay, we use Moodle because it's openly available, and we use Articulate. But why do we use two systems? Well, the one thing is a learning management system, and the other thing is a design tool for courses. And it's a bit unfortunate that we had to use both, but Moodle is good for what it does. It's open, I love it, but it's not so attractive anymore. For students that are used to multimedia messages and such, it becomes important to also have a nice design. And Articulate is helping with that, and it can be integrated and easily transferred. So that's why we're using those two. There are others. I'm not now here to advertise for any of the systems, even though Moodle is for free, so there's no money in that. But Articulate, we also use the free version, like a demo version, at some point that also needed to be purchased. But yeah, that is then also a question what tool to use here. Again, this is a to some extent also political decision, but we just wanted to show you like what is possible, or what what is the latest thing or what is somewhat recommendable. Yeah, so yes, learning management system authoring tool, these are the differences. This is how we went along it. Yeah, we looked at what is it, what are the course units, what's the structure, what would be actually the content, then creating a mock-up course, a prototype to then be able to discuss it in terms of a co-design process, and then to actually do the course design, to have the learning materials really spelled out and have scripts ready, and create the course materials. So again, what is Moodle? Yeah, I already said it, it's free. I'm not going deeply into Moodle, first of all, because I believe most of you already know it, don't you? And second, there are really ample, and this is the nice thing about it also, there's really lots of material online to learn about Moodle and to answer any questions that might arise if you're using Moodle. Yeah, but it has this easy to use interface. It's really compatible, and you know, today if I would advise a university what LMS to go for, I would still consider Moodle very much because it's free and because it's open. It can be designed further and so on and so forth. It's still a good choice for public institutions, I think. Then Articulate, that's, yeah, as I said, it's a bit of a different story, a design tool that has quite some intuitive user interfaces and can be also learned easily by using it, has multimedia learning content, which is important. You always have to think about copyrights, and then Articulate also helps you with that, and has some customizable templates and such, but is then less customizable than some other e-learning tools, and there are also alternatives and higher versions of Articulate as well. But again, we're using what was available to us, and this is how it looks like. For instance, if you create a design, if you create a quiz of sorts, you can choose the different answer option. You can even choose the emotional feedback. Yeah, so what the learner sees then in the end, it looks like this. So there is the teacher asking a question, and the face can be also made angry or happy, depending on whether the answer is correct. So that's kind of a nice feature, because we know that online learning works just like a charm, except maybe that there is a bit of an emotional void. Yeah? And so then these are ways to also provide an emotional context, yeah, with faces, because that's how humans work. Yeah? So this is how it looks like a simple quiz. And the nice thing is you can then export the course. This is what we did also, and export it on a cloud service like Google Cloud or any such services, also into Moodle, of course. Yeah, that's the whole idea. But it doesn't have user management. Yeah, that's what you need the LMS for. Anyways, just to get an impression of the micro course, you have some more links on the template that you downloaded that are now useful. You can also type in the URL that you see here, but there are some more links in the template that you used before. If you go to the last slide, I believe, I think I have a secret team member in the chat of the WebEx for the online learners, or for everyone who joining WebEx here, the online meeting, who is also providing the links to start the course. Thank you, Marcus, back home in Germany, where it's now, I don't know, 6 o'clock or something in the morning. So thanks for helping us out here. Good. Yeah, so what you need to do is you need to start the course. It then unfolds, or it starts automatically. That's the nice thing about it. It should be right away accessible. And all you need to do is you need to engage in the course. As this formal description already told you, it's starting then with quizzes and such, which then allows you to go on, or which suggests to you to actually look at the course material. So if you brought headsets or headphones, that would be coming in handy now if you also want to watch some of the videos that are presented here. This is on some level just to experiment with how it feels, and I'm hoping that the that the Wi-Fi is strong enough and the server it is on is also strong enough, because videos are, of course, like always large packages. So maybe give it some time. But it's also for you to try out how it feels like to take a quiz and then go on to learning, to then take a quiz, to then be suggested to move on. However, what we did is not to install like hard borders, hard limits. If you do not make the course, you would still be able to go on, but you are suggested to then look at the material again. Yeah? And if you are making the test, you don't have to go on. You can still look back at the actual course material. Yeah? But it's just suggested you to go on. This is also a question how hard you make this, how restricted you make this, whether you say, okay, if you do not make the test, then you cannot go on. Or if you make the test, then you cannot see the old material. That is a little bit up to the designer. I would typically be a little bit more open here, because otherwise it's just very, very much very guided, or overly over-scripted in a way. Yeah. So that's all to it. There's the link you have on your slide. And then just start the course, read through it, engage in it automatically. Let's say 15 minutes again, just to get an experience of the course. It's about study coordination, competencies that a study coordinator needs to have. And this is, of course, just a snippet. It's not the full course yet, but just for you to try out. And then I would also like to have a little bit of feedback from you to learn about how you thought about that. Yes, and again, thanks to Marcus helping us remotely from Germany. Because, you know, professors, they don't know how to tie their shoes. Yeah. Good. Does it work? Yeah.
So you have, for example, typical, you use this like you have a specific one, and it's same. Yeah. And more like very tiny button. You say. Let's see, and it gives you then takes the text, it goes again. Maybe it's true. You think you don't like that section?
Yeah. The web version seems to be working for everyone, I believe. Nobody had to download it. You can still download it, be our guest. But it seemed to have been working for really everyone.
So maybe
So I'm looking around. Yeah, I forgot to tell you that it also works nicely now on the mobile phone. That's the beauty of it, that it's a framework. It doesn't design for one other device, but works on mobile as well. Active, really good, everyone's finished. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that was that was the micro course, just to give you an impression. Again, I do not want to give you the impression that that's the only way micro learning can happen. Yeah, think outside the box is very important here. I know lots of micro learning apps that are really building heavily on quizzing only. Yeah, um, I'm learning languages with Duolingo. They're only asking questions rather than making a presentation about grammar or words. Yeah, that's how I learned Apakaba and Selamat Pagi, and so yeah, good. So now I again ask your help. You had now an impression how that went with the microcourse. We again would like to capture that impression. And I would kindly ask you to fill out the survey. It's only, again, like 5 minutes. It's the next link. It's here written on the slide, but it's also, again, in your template. So if you would kindly give us an impression of now how you found, what you thought about this micro course, yeah, how engaging is it, or how, whatever, please, please fill out this survey, and then we come back together and discuss. And Marcus has provided the link to the survey, also WebEx in the chat. So yo. 100% he already gets the golden certificate. Carlos is using AI technology. He do the AI. What you copy it? No, no, what was wrong? That's really better. Yes.
So, wo soll ich tippen? Ich zeige dir das jetzt erstmal. So. Was ist das? Jetzt müssen wir mal schauen. Aber das steht ja Design Principles for Microcourses, Challenges, Potentials. Sagen die das dann? Und die nächste ist dann hier, das sind dann Design Principles. Das ist auch diese Sachen eigentlich auf den großen Bildschirm gehen, verstehst du? Dann siehst du das aber nicht mehr. Das ist ein Problem. Kannst du möglicherweise ist es besser, du machst das im Sitzen und ich gebe dir den Computer. Verstehst du? Nein. Schwierig. Ach, diese Tastatur ist natürlich scheiße. Das kann ich nicht. So, dann machen wir es so. Hast du deinen Computer dabei? Hat er noch Strom? Nicht doch einfach deinen Computer, weil das ist ja für dich zugänglich. Geh doch einfach hier hin, dahin und setz dich hin, was kann ich hier hochkommen, setz dich hin, mach das hier auf, die letzte Slide, die letzte Dings, dann kommst du hier hin und dann nimmst du das einfach erst hier rein. I promised you a workshop and it's actually a workshop. You actually have to work. It's all for free. So sorry. But me talking all the time, you wouldn't like either. So.
Do you know, Armin, that the professor is asking for e-certificate?
Yeah.
So maybe those who show
They get an e-certificate. Yeah. That's also the idea of the study coordinator course. That basically it's not ready yet. This is just a snippet, not everything yet. But then when it's complete, then you can complete it, and then you get the certificate. Yeah. This is just to get a feeling for it, how it could be, and maybe then you get also an understanding how it could be better. Yeah, that would be even more interesting then. Yeah, so this stays like this at least for some time. So you can. Yeah, it's available. We'll put it out there. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, for now, for this purpose, we have now shifted the plan. The long-term plan is to use both Moodle and Articulate. Now we have quickly changed that and put away Moodle, because for Moodle, what Moodle does, what Moodle provides for this purpose is user management. But that would mean you need to register, you know, and we wanted to, just for this purpose here, we wanted to just to for you to get a feeling, yeah. And it's anonymous and it's not like, but then for actually getting a certificate, then we would really know, we need to know that it's you and so on and so forth. Yeah, and then we needed to place it in a learning management system. Now it's on Google Cloud, and there it also unfolds just by clicking on it, as you see, and quite nicely, better than we expected it could. Because it could hold multiple users, so that was good. And again, Terry Makasi for helping us with the survey. This is really helping us to better understand this design and adjust it. It also helps a student of ours, a master student, to work on this. Yeah, Marcus, who is online helping us. So that is very important for us to understand your perspective. Yeah? But I think we can also come to the last point. If I'm not mistaken, I'm looking to Isabel whether she gets ready. Not yet, okay. Okay, anyway, the last point, again, thank you for filling out the survey. Continue filling out the survey if you're not ready yet, that's fine. The last point now is to say, let's talk a bit, let's discuss. I will be running around with a microphone and scaring you. Put the microphone in your face, like so. And then I'm asking you questions and so on. Don't be scared. No one, it's very private here. Because now we want to discuss a little bit what are now challenges for design? What do you think is difficult and what would be a potential? About the things that you've heard so far, like the amazing AI tools, now this particular graphical language, the articulate designed microcourse. What would keep you, what would be a hurdle to do that for yourself? Yeah, from now this first impression only, what do you think would be reasons why it would be worth doing it? What is the potential of this? Yeah, from what you heard, what speaks to you from what you've heard? What would you say, oh, this is still difficult? Yeah? So that would be the question. And I have a slide prepared, and this is the last slide. And you can also use this last link on the template, which brings you to here. Can you see it on WebEx as well? Yes? Good, great. Because this is the same slide, just in Google, so that we can fill it out together. If you don't want me to talk to you, or if you don't want to raise your voice, you can also just put it in here, no problem, no problem. But we can also discuss a little bit, use our human voice, and I will come to you. And I will ask Isabel then to type it in. If she's on, are you ready to go? Oh, one more. Okay, no problem, no problem. We're going for help. Okay. All right. So please then show me your arms. And if you don't show me your arms, I will come to you anyway. But the policies.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for helping us design better our courses so that it reflects how we should design courses, micro courses, but not only micro courses, because these tools have been designed macro. One of the challenges of this relates to AI. I was showing to you extensions that you can have in your browser solve automatically the quizzes. And the quizzes were one of the main resources when creating we design once, and then thousands of students can do the quizzes. And they were a good part, it moves better. But now we think of other ways of designing the activity, the quiz. And I'm thinking in your language, for example, there is only one type of activity, only one type of icon. So the activity. And probably for a teacher, it would be helpful to have different types, depending on think out of the box. Okay, not only a quiz, quiz yeah, it's all like 70 okay. 1% how? That would help because the recurring question right now is how are we going to assess our students? But also, and we need more help also from the same perspective.
Language more expressive or polyglot can be more expressive, Isabel? Yes. And potential, however, is that it does describe working scenarios, right?
I mean, we need more alternatives.
Yes.
And anything that helps us think beyond the traditional ways, especially in assessment, will be helpful.
Of course, that it's not just the symbols, but you can add and you should add text to it. And you can then not only say, oh, this is a learning object, it can be a video, multimedia message, it can be a meme, it can be a TikTok thing. So and the same with the activity. That's where the flexibility comes in, but maybe it's not enough or it doesn't represent the richness of it. So we have to think about whether we need additional pieces of graphical language. We intentionally reduced it, because there is something called affordance of a tool. Yeah? And here we wanted to have the affordance to think about lots of assessment as a core a principle or core function to arrive at microcredentials. But interesting, say, okay, let's have a more varied thing, and then we can play with colors, we can play with forms to say learning objects can be blah, 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 multiple things, and maybe multiple or more specific to microcourse things. Huh? Right, okay, good. Yes, please.
Okay, I have one question. Okay, looking at the test course, I would say, there's no connection activity. For example, ice breaking activity. So, for that, is it necessary to have ice breaking or in learning activity to get connected to the? Because in physical class, you can see their face and say hi, hello. So, how do you make connection with your participants?
Yeah. Because we sometimes believe that a tool being out there, the environment being out there is enough. And we don't need to address them. The only thing the learners need is to lead. And then they're in there, and then it's all automatized. And sometimes that it's not enough. So the nice thing about this highly automatized environment is that it scales. That it doesn't, at some point, it doesn't matter if it's 10, 100, or 1,000 people. And that's a very, very attractive idea. Because you know, as a teacher, you have lots of work with students ultimately. Unfortunately, it's always the most work, 80% of the work is caused by 10% of the students. So it's interesting to think about how you can capture that. And it's worthwhile to actively design for that, for the teachers. First, now, Carlos and Carlos would say there's an AI tool for that. Yeah? There are very strong AI tools for that indeed. And to build chatbots. We used to build them, and it took us years to build one because we had to teach them with discourse data, with existing discourse data that was analyzed manually buy multiple coders, and then we fed it into the machine, and then maybe something came out. And now, you do. Then you have large language models and the chatbot. It's amazing. We built one now. Even only a few, which we used to we spend years on it before, and it's much better. So there is also something in there, and of course the hope would be that the interaction would be of the real interaction of teachers and students would become more qualitative, more valuable. So I'm not saying take it out, no, but maybe really focus then on what you think is important in the emotional approach to the students. That would be, of course, the choice, and not to hide away and say, "Oh, I'm not needed anymore because you take this up out of the equation." Thank you very much. I see that also there are quite some things written on the screen on this shared slide. Limited connections are challenging. Ensure that the assessment are complete by the students themselves. Yes, a huge issue. There's a tool for that. There's a tool for cheating. That could mean that in the future, and that's where we then need our resources. In the future, the oral examination comes back into fashion, and the live workshop comes back into fashion, and it's really better understood why that is important, because it's really us working. The sharing of the moment is then most valuable. Doesn't mean that it will happen in the future, and that's the maybe the issue. Then limited content depth, limited time for in-depth content exploration. The designer has to prioritize essential content to avoid too much information. Yeah, that is also something I'm concerned with. Yeah, this is then the thing that macro learning is basically covering and not micro learning. But it's also true that the micro learning content is valuable in itself, and if you can learn it like so, then it's actually the more fair option for the learners. So, for instance, when I was studying, I had this social science data analysis package, SPSS, that I had to learn to do research. And the university said, "Oh, no, we're not teaching software," which is, of course, now unimaginable because it's so essential. And that shows that you cannot deny the most central craftsmanship in also in academia. So it becomes necessary, but there is, of course, then still a challenge also to think about the larger learning goals. Engagement with learners, the design, and here to consider virtual interaction with the learners engaged well by language assessment, particularly writing, to ensure that the writing, for example, report is then again, else I'm guessing. But let's look at the potentials as well. Wider coverage of local and international students. Oh yes, the world is becoming a smaller place. And how internal if we do not cater for exactly the micro competencies using respective tools. And good for working adults to gain more knowledge for career development, automate course creation from polygraph diagrams. Yes, exactly. That is then what we're thinking about right now. It's still all manual, but having such a visual language that can be, of course, translated and can be made dynamic. So maybe at the end, and in a former project we have already done this, then the language can be automatically translated into a running learning environment. That is, of course, like the end goal, so to speak. And, well, another end goal is to say, okay, I can also see the learning process in the language while it's happening. That is, of course, very far-reaching. Then flexibility in acquiring micro-credentials, yes. Support for busy individuals to upskill and reskill themselves, yes. Automatized systems allows learners to learn on their own pace without having to wait for educators to be present from time to time, so there is no lagging in learning. Yes, that is the learning at the bus stop. You do not always have time to learn something. You don't have time to call your friends and say, hey, let's learn together. Or to say, oh, now I need to run to the teacher. No, you need it quick. for specific purposes, and that's where microlearning comes in play. Then learning bite sizes and easily motivate learners and engage them. Yes. Reach out to students in geographically remote, challenge environments to further their studies and enhance their career prospects. Yes, this is something that is, of course, extremely rewarding in itself, and that was what drove us in the precursor project competency, and what is driving us now as well, to be able to reach out not only to the elite of academics, but also to then underserved, underprivileged communities. Right. So now I'm looking at the time. And 10 minutes. Okay. I have another slide to work on. Oopsie, no, that's not the one I wanted to show you. We are still here. But the question now here is, so we talked about challenges and potentials. That's an important thing to discuss, the good and the bad. That's how our mind works. Yeah? What is a danger and what is maybe a reward. But now we needed to be talking about design principles. So what are design principles? We were talking about some. We were now talking about challenges and potentials. How would you say, how would you think, what would you think is important in designing microcourses? What are principles of this is also a difficult question. At the end comes the most difficult question. What would be a design principle that you could think of for microcourses? Throughout my talk, I have mentioned a few. Maybe it's also good to revisit them. So this is a difficult question. What would be an important principle that you can think of? What is a principle for your own teaching, let's say, or for your own learning? That guides the way you design your teaching. Say it's most important to have clarity in the way you present things. Do you say it's my principle is to interact with the students? My principle is to say, okay, I'm giving hard tasks, or on the contrary, I'm giving easy tasks so everyone's happy. Or my principle is the emotional well-being. So what would be important, you think, for when you go about designing a microcourse? Clarity on the assessment. Yeah, much better than the assessment I gave you right now. It's a difficult one, yes. Clear learning objectives. Very good. Happens by itself. Yeah. Interactive and engagement. Wonderful. Look how nicely this works by itself. It's the ghost in the shell. Yeah.
So this is not AI, this is human.
This is social computing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome idea. Concise and to the point course content. Keep the presentation up. Yes. And if I may ask the authors, you can also use the examples. I would be most interested to hear about blossom idea and how to keep the motivation up. Quick design or clarity on the assessment. Very good. Whoever is writing here, I'm hugging you. Very good. Oh my friends, here's the motivation. I'm using ARCS motivation model. Yeah? ARCS, attention. Yes.
Confidence and strength.
Yes. Relevance, confidence, and
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction. Yeah. Attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. Yes, it's a large debate. What about motivation? Can you actually facilitate motivation? Isn't that something that the learners bring to the table? Do you, as a teacher, have to work for motivation and so on? But in the end, I would think that it's better to think about the motivation when you're designing it than to nothing. So at least a bad design can destroy motivation. That's the least. Yeah? And then, of course, you have to be interested in what is the intrinsic motivation of the students and address that. That is what you can do about motivation. And if the students are still not motivated, you also have to step back a little bit and not get frustrated, because that's just then how it is. You don't have to be fully responsible for every bit of motivation that people have, but you can design for motivations. And possibly creative video interactive between teacher and student. Yeah, this was of course an interesting experience in the competency project, that people can nicely create also learning artifacts, these emerging learning objects. And maybe that is also something to think for micro learning as well. We were taking it out because it typically goes beyond a very short learning nugget. That's why we were taking it out. But you know, if we see this is becoming relevant and becoming something that is most attractive, then nothing stopping us from taking it back in. Ensure the micro course is mapped with the learning outcome. Yes, this magic, very simple sentence, what you test is what you get, is even more true for micro-credentials. I would. Of course, with more fun, research gains, Kahoot, etc. Yes, this is exactly the core, I would think, that how do you design interesting interaction? Yeah, these little tools make a large difference. Kahoot is making a difference, or audience response systems, that is making a difference in how you interact. And interaction can be designed as a game as well. Right. So, you know, I'm German and I cannot deny it. That means I'm punctual, or so they say. It's actually not true, but now it is. I like to end on time. I thank you very, very much. It has been most productive to hear your voices. Well, not as I promised you to threatened you to speak through your mouth, but by this shared representation, which feels it's out by itself almost. So thanks to all the authors. And with that, I say terima kasih for your participation. And what we cannot deliver online is lunch. Very sorry for that. But for those who are present, I believe that's what we're going to do now. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. Oh, it remains online. It's open, yeah, at least for 30 days. Yeah, but the sooner the better.